Well, yes and no. I mean, it all depends on how the legislation is done. We've seen examples of legislation which was balanced and fair. We've seen other examples, egregious examples, I would say, such as in Europe, where we've had major difficulties with a lot of the provisions in those initiatives, which in fact end up causing more trouble than they actually solve, problems that they solve for the industry and the consumers. Well, look, I mean, the airline industry is a major element and enabler of global travel and tourism. World travel and tourism is the world's largest single industry, employs millions of people around the world. When you have bad legislation, costly legislation on the airline industry to the benefit of relatively few number of passengers, well, that imposes costs and burdens and challenges on a wider system which supports greater global growth in employment and in world travel. So a lot of our partners, for example, in the hotel industry and tourism industry, have been very vocal in their support of the airline industry in trying to deal with these sorts of bad pieces of legislation. In Canada, we had an example where we defeated a very poor piece of airline consumer rights legislation because we had the full support of our hotel partners in tourism who recognized this was not going to be good for anybody. The bottom line is that the airline industry never, ever would fly knowingly any unsafe aircraft. Our business is safety, first and foremost. The problem you have is that when you impose certain requirements from the consumer protection point of view, such as, for example, delay compensation, well, in certain circumstances, that can be detrimental or even undermine what we're trying to do in terms of safety. For example, if you are charging us a mandatory compensation amount per passenger in the event of a delay occasioned by a safety issue, well, what are you doing then? You're actually imposing a stopwatch on our ability to perform those repairs in a manner which we think is complete and safe, and essentially undermines a holistic safety culture that we're trying to have in the airline industry. So while it may sound good to say, great, you know, the passenger gets some compensation for the delay occasioned by this problem, the bottom line is a lot of safety regulators will tell you they don't want that. A lot of passengers will tell you they're happy to wait 2 or 3 hours and have a little lunch on the airline if they know the problem is being resolved and ensuring their safe flight. So is that conducive to an overall safety culture? I don't think it is. I think it actually undermines it.